Hey, good evening. Good evening. I always got to let this thing get started a little bit here because it seems like often when I go back and watch I start too early. But this is your host, Steve Hansen. This is your favorite show. We'll sing and we'll shout. We are here on a Wednesday night in Provo, Utah. We missed last night. I ended up going with, we've got my wife's sister's family in town, sister Angie and husband Jamie, and their three adult children are here. And so we went to downtown Salt Lake yesterday afternoon, toured around Temple Square, took some nice pictures there, and we went to the Joseph Smith Memorial Building, and then we went out to eat at a place called Caputo's, which is like a New York style deli, really, really great place. And then we rode the front runner up there and back, so that was kind of fun. But it was a full day of activity and didn't allow us to do a show last night. So, but
I got to know Angie's husband because you guys came here for dinner.
that's right. Yeah, we did before the Ohio State game there last fall.
Really nice guy.
He is. Jamie's a good guy. Yeah. In fact, so I went down to Woodland Hills to work on this 11,000 square foot home here this morning. In fact, when that thing gets closer to done, I will do a little video presentation, a little Facebook Live of that home, because it's a pretty amazing place and a pretty amazing story. But Jamie went for a 16-mile hike here today. He took off, I don't know, about 7:30, and he hiked about 8 miles up into the mountains, and then obviously he came back down.
Right.
So he's sitting in a chair and pretty happy to sit there for
I bet.
tonight. So
You know what's funny is me and Scott used to do a little bit of hiking around Utah there. You know, we go up into Sundance and hike around up there.
right.
And at the time, I only had two little kids. I only had Chris and Allison, but I found it so much easier hiking up than coming back down with my knees. I've always had bad knees. And for some reason, I could go up much easier than I could come back down. It hurt my knees coming back down. Isn't that interesting?
Right. You know, last fall when I was in the midst of my weight loss, I think I was about halfway there. So I started out at 220. This was probably sometime when I was around 200, maybe 205. Kenny and Robert and I hiked up to what has been called Squaw Peak. And on the way up, I was doing pretty well. I was, feeling a little tired and maybe I'd have to stop and rest a little bit, but I had enough gumption to hike up there pretty well. But by the time I got up there, I was pretty exhausted. In fact, I know that if Kenny wasn't along, I probably would have not gone all the way. I probably would have turned back. But it's like, okay, I gotta put up a showing here for my young son,
Mm-hmm.
And so I forced myself to go all the way up. But then, yeah, Cheryl, the trip down was just torture. I was just so tired, and my legs, I had to be really careful with each step as I'm coming down just to make sure that I didn't, lose it.
Yeah.
And
It's like
it
you
was
can
make-
slip and slide coming down.
it was making me laugh. Yeah, I was literally laughing at myself because it was like, this is so ridiculous, that I can't even hike down this freaking mountain.
Yep.
Now here, another 20 pounds lighter, I'd be in a much better place. Not in a perfectly good place, but in a much better place.
Yep.
But poor Kenny was getting so far ahead of us, and then finally Robert kind of gave up on me, and he wasn't waiting for me. And so they were both, like way out ahead of me. If I had fallen, I would have been on my own because these guys took off and left me.
Uh-huh.
But Kenny's probably thinking, why did I take that fat old guy up the hill? But anyway, we had a good time. So yeah, I enjoyed that hiking a lot. So I've got my next set of retainers in here tonight, and I can feel them, really starting to pull my teeth together even more. But it doesn't hurt while they're in. I can feel it, but it doesn't really hurt. But when it hurts, when I feel the pain, not that it hurts a lot, but when I feel it is when I take them out and go to eat. Then all of a sudden I realize that my bones are tender and bruised.
Right.
And that's exactly what the dentist said. The dentist told me that you're going to be moving your teeth through your bones, and
Right.
it's going to create tenderness, and you're going to feel that. And was he spot on? Because when I go when I take these things out and I go to eat, it's like, wow, it's right there. So
Hey, so isn't this supposed to be Weight Loss Wednesday, even though we're going to discuss some other stuff?
this is supposed to be Weight Loss Wednesday.
Well, I
And
was just curious about, are you still at like 40 pounds lost?
I am essentially, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm right in the 180, 185 range.
Well,
It's
that's where I'm
frustrating.
at. I'm at the 40 pounds lost on my side. So I was thinking maybe we could challenge each other for the next 10 pounds and see who gets there quicker.
Okay, that's totally fair. Uh, yeah,
Then we can both get B to 50 together.
okay. Now I have already been down there. Like I've been down to 170. I was down there at Christmas time. And even when I got home from Tahiti or wherever, I was down like 173, 174. But but I have kind of gravitated back up as life has gotten busy and I just haven't like been as consistent with my program. So so I feel like I'm cheating a little bit to accept that challenge, but I'll accept it because I certainly need to get busy and get down there. So
Yeah, and I've got my swimming, my daughter's swimming pool's open now, and that just helps me so much. Just even being in the sunshine and just like for some reason, if your mind is distracted with something else, plus the exercise, um, it's so much easier to not eat. So I think I just thought about that today that we were both kind of at that 40-pound mark, and it would be fun to see who can get to 50 quicker.
yeah, yep. That that's a totally good idea. So, but yeah, there's a lot of good things to talk about weight loss wise, even though that we're not going to talk about that tonight. But I still feel so grateful for the Unicity products, and I take my Balance product every day, and my gut is healthier than it's ever been. I feel so thankful for that. I use the Unamate. I still do my fasting almost every day, and I use the Unamate in the morning when I need to extend my fast. And those two products have really changed my life. I
I'm
still,
having some right now. I'm having the nighttime version, which is the no caffeine.
all
But
right,
like I make it for Martin in the evenings because he stops eating at 6. So I make it for him. And then a lot of times when he goes to bed, there's like half of it left. So I just pour it into my cup and finish it up.
right, yeah, but
But
it's
I've
still
been having
very.
trouble lately with some diarrhea. And I don't
Who,
know if it's because we've been grinding up that flaxseed and putting it in with our balance. And I don't know if it's that flaxseed that's causing me trouble or what, but it's been kind of crazy. I had to take
well,
2 of them anti-diarrhea pills tonight just to stop it.
we don't have a day of the week when we talk about diarrhea on a program,
It's important.
so
We have to
so
keep our
that's
audience entertained.
that's a different program.
Okay.
Um, but you can bring it up occasionally if you need to. But yeah, that's a different program. But I do, as we talked about, 180 pounds. Like I could spend the rest of my life at 180 pounds, and I wouldn't feel bad about things, and I
No,
do
you
feel
look good.
okay.
You actually look really
But
good.
but I know that I can be lighter. I want to be lighter. I want to be able to jump, and I can't do that at 180 pounds. So, and Aaron's over here laughing now. We got
Oh, I'm
Aaron.
sure.
We
Because
got
I'm
Aaron
talking about
laughing.
diarrhea.
So yeah, that's a different show, Aaron. But
Hmm.
um, so tonight, we you had brought this up the other night about the huge difference that you experienced the summer you spent at Cedar Point, and then all of a sudden you found yourself walking the campus of BYU,
Right.
and what a huge difference that was. And I thought, that is so spot on because we experienced the same thing when we came out here and visited Utah and Idaho with Dad during the spring of 1981, right?
Right.
The spring of
Yep.
1981.
Yep.
Um, Mom had taken us to Ohio State, to the campus of Ohio State for football games in years previous.
Yeah, and I remember
And
being at the student center and all that.
yeah, she would take us around and we'd go to the bookstore and we'd go to different things. And you had a sense of what Ohio State was and kind of what Ohio State life was like. And you would see the students and it was cool. And obviously both mom and dad, love Ohio State. That's where they went to school. That's where they met. Um,
My
but
daughter Annie fell in love with Ohio State campus. She had looked at quite a few different places to go to school, and Zach and Allison took her to Ohio State University, and she's like, "That's it. That's where I want to be."
and ultimately I went to Ohio State. So I
Yeah.
know those
So did
paths.
Monka.
I know those choices. But I will say that when we came out here and visited Rick's College up in Idaho, and then BYU here in Provo, you could feel the difference. You could feel a huge difference on the campus and see it in the kids, and it was really a pretty amazing thing that Dad did in bringing us out here. Maybe you can give a little background about why did he decide to do that? Why did he decide to bring it? And
Well,
it started out with just you. It was just going to be
yeah.
you.
I think that Kristen Jenks, no, not Kristen Jenks, Kristen Jensen had come out to BYU. I think she went to BYU Provo, and she really liked it. And I think Dad really wanted me to follow in those footsteps and go to school out west. And um, I'm not sure that I would have. And he just decided we're going to go out there and I'm going to show you these schools so that you can see what it would be like to go to school there and decide if you want to. Because, at the end of your junior year, I mean, you're already applying for, you usually apply to go to college, maybe the beginning of your senior year. So it was, he basically took us the only time he could have for me to go ahead and get applications in and stuff. Um, so I guess, I don't remember a whole lot why he did it, except that he just wanted to take us out west and show it to us. And then, yeah, I don't remember why you ended up going along, but I'm glad you did because we had fun. And Dad's got these silly movies of you and I at Rick's College and me being stupid and looking like Cheryl Merrill or something. And then there's one point where you're like coming out of the Rick's College like student center, the man wearing center. You're coming out, and I tried to like grab your arm, and you just yanked your arm away. It was really
Okay.
funny. Anyway,
Uh,
there's they're on that Hanson Family Classics, I think. There's some pictures
really?
of you and I at the Manwaring Center at Rick's College. Yep.
I I have a copy of that obviously somewhere, but
Yep.
I don't remember that particular scene. I'll have to check that out. Um,
I think maybe also remember he took us to Bear Lake and where's that? Where Matt used to live, Logan area.
oh, did we swing through there?
Yep.
I
Dad
didn't
took us to
remember
Bear
that.
Lake too. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, it was kind of an amazing thing that he made that decision to bring us both out here, and it was right in the middle of our parents, you know, their struggles of whether they were going to stay
Stay
together or
together.
pull apart.
Right.
And but they were still together at that point.
Yeah.
And Mom had taken us to the airport in Cleveland, and we were there in the B gates. We weren't there at B2, which is one that I've spent a lot of time going back and forth from Atlanta. But we were right there in the B gates, and Mom was kind of teared up when we were leaving because she wanted to go to Utah too, but she knew that she couldn't go on this trip, but she was
Right.
disappointed.
Yeah.
So Mom was always up for a trip.
Yeah.
It didn't take
Mom did love to travel.
Mom. Mom didn't hesitate to want to take off. So, but uh, but it's amazing the impacts that that trip had on both of our lives. Because
Mm.
I mean, if we hadn't made that trip, where do you think you might have gone to school?
Um, I would have gone, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe Bowling Green because I'd been up there to see Gary. Um, possibly Ohio State. I'm trying to think if I had like any place specifically in this area in mind. And I can't think of anything. I'm sure Mom would have wanted me to go to Ohio State, so she probably would have been pushing me that way. And I might have. That might have been where I ended up. But I really was into the Mormon culture. When we were growing up, we were you and I were one of five students at Bellevue High School that were LDS. But for some reason, it just really grabbed me, and I just really wanted to be part of it. And it was so difficult to do here in Ohio. Um, so going out to Rick's College and when Dad took us out west, he took us to, I think we went to Provo first, or did we go up to Rexburg first?
I feel like we went to Rexburg first. I feel like we
All right.
got off the plane, jumped in the rental car, and went to Idaho.
Well, Rick's College at the time had 6,000 students.
Right.
So it was quite a bit smaller. Provo has 26,000, maybe more now, I don't know. But when I went to Provo, it was 26,000. And
Right.
what's now called BYU Idaho, because it's a 4-year school now. It was only a 2-year school when I went. Had 6,000 students. So it was quite a much smaller campus. And me coming from a small town, BYU Provo was a little bit scary for me because it was so much bigger. And then there was also the thing that I probably wouldn't have had the grades to get into BYU Provo. It's a hard school to get into. It's not as hard as like U of M, but you have to have really excellent grades. And I was kind of a B plus student at the time. I
Hmm.
mean, I got A's my whole senior year, straight A's my whole senior year. But because our parents were going through so much turmoil and our family was going through so much turmoil, especially my freshman year was pretty messed up. And I ended up getting some really bad grades that pulled my whole grade point average down, which is really sad because I really am not a B student. I was really an A student. And even in college, I graduated with a 3.5 for my GPA from all of college. So getting into BYU Provo might have been difficult anyway. Then I got into Rick's fairly easily. And then once you graduate from Rick's, it's a free ticket right into BYU Provo. They don't care about your grades at that point. You're allowed to go because it was basically the only church school that was available. So, but I had good grades from Rick's College, so that wasn't a problem.
Right.
But Rexburg ended up being perfect for me. It was just the right size. You feel like you're on a smaller campus. You can find your way around. And the first year they made us stay at the dormitories. There were 6 girls' dorms, and I ended up staying. They didn't give you a choice. If you were a freshman, you had to stay at the dorms. And so then you got a meal ticket, and you just ate at the cafeteria, and it was easy. It was a nice thing for first year of college to not have to worry about going to the grocery store and all that. And then the second year, I did end up in an apartment, Baronessa, and that's the year that you came out with me, Steve.
Right.
And so me and Lonnie used to walk uptown. My roommate Lonnie was also my roommate at the girls' dormitory, and then she was the only one that transferred with me to Baronessa. But we
Hey,
would walk uptown and
let
get
me
groceries, and then they would deliver them for us. But go ahead.
let me share these numbers really quick. BYU
Hmm.
Provo is now 37,000. BYU Idaho, the beloved Rick's, is
Hmm.
24,000.
Yeah.
They have 24,000 students up there on campus. They count a total of 50,000, but 26,000 of those are online. But they've got 24,000 students up on that campus that used to have 6,000.
Right.
So
So that's grown a lot. And obviously
that's
BYU Provo has grown a lot too. So that's just crazy.
yeah,
And then there's also a church school in Hawaii, BYU Hawaii.
yeah.
So there's some nice options. And then I know on the East Coast in Virginia, there's like a school I think it's run by LDS or has LDS values and stuff, but it's not really necessarily, I don't think the church owns it or anything.
I don't think it's what is that called? It's Virginia something. Um,
Hmm.
but
I
yeah.
had a friend who taught there for a while. He's named Jeff Benedict. He writes books.
But the reason why when I came out there with you, the reason why when things got messed up for me in Columbus, and Mom decided to move to Galleon to take care of Aunt Elsie, and it didn't seem like it was going to make sense for me to go back to the farm yet. Um, and the reason why I decided to come out west with you back out to Idaho was because I had been there and I knew that that was a good place, a safe place. And even though I was only out there for 2 months with you, that turned out to be a pivotal, life altering experience out there for me.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
uh, and then I would end up,
Scott actually interviewed for a trombone teacher position out at Rick's. And I think it was still Rick's College at the time, but David Bednar interviewed him.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, David Bednar was the president of Rick's at the time.
Right.
And Scott did um, he did like a big concert thing for his audition. He had to do a couple pieces on the trombone. And I asked my costuming teacher, Sister Whitfield, if she would go over and watch his audition so that he would have some moral support kind of thing. So Sister Whitfield went over from the Kirkham building over to the Snow building and watched Scott's audition or interview or whatever,
Right.
which was so nice of her. He ended up coming in second. And the guy that beat him, he knew from BYU because they had been there together when Scott got his master's degree. He had been there with this guy. This guy played bass trombone and Scott played lead trombone, but they had been there together. So Scott knew him and he said he's a great trombone player and he didn't feel too bad about losing out to him. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how our lives would have changed if Scott would have gotten that job.
Right.
We
Right.
probably
Wow.
would have never been divorced or anything.
That's pretty neat that he got interviewed by David Bednar. The
Yeah.
other thing I'm seeing here about BYU Idaho is that it's 53% male, and so there are literally 1,000 more males on that campus than there are females. So if you're a young female and you're looking for a Mormon date, a
Oh,
Latter Day
yeah.
Saint date, Rick's College, BYU Idaho, is a pretty darn
Place to go.
pretty good place to go.
Yep.
So
Hey, I was looking for a return missionary from the second I got on campus. That's what we did.
right.
We were trying to find
So,
husbands. Well, it's really
so
true. I mean, I grew up with you're going to be a stay-at-home mom. That was my goal. So I
right,
didn't really need a career. So I just needed to find a husband. So
right, right. So, but yeah, what an amazing thing it was that Dad took us out there, and I could see that. I mean, I don't know that Dad had been on these campuses at that point
I
either.
don't think
Obviously,
so. I think he was
he
just as impressed as we were.
he had come out here to General Conference because he had been a bishop, and so he came out to General Conference a couple times, and there was a family that he stayed with right there in Salt Lake, and and then he would come home with books and whatnot. But I don't think he'd been on these campuses, and so yeah, you could tell that Dad was really impressed, and you could tell just the way Dad approached these schools. You kind of experienced it through you experienced things through your parents
Right.
while you're whether you're down at Ohio State with Mom and feeling her enthusiasm for Ohio State, or you come out here to BYU and you felt your dad's reverence
Reverence,
for
that
the
was the exact word I was going to use. That is so
yeah
true. I
when
have
we
kind of a neat story to tell you about when we visited Rick's. The Snow building had just been built. It's the Eliza R. Snow. She was the first Relief Society president, knew Joseph Smith, all that. So they named the building after her because I guess she was probably into the arts and stuff. In fact, I know she was because she wrote poems and songs and stuff now that I think about it. But
right
so they built this big, beautiful Eliza R. Snow building for the arts, for music and drama and stuff. And they had built this beautiful theater, and they actually built the theater after they had built the one at BYU. So they took everything that they had wished they had done at BYU and they put it in this theater at Rick's. So it was like you could stand on stage and the acoustics were fabulous. You didn't even need a microphone. It sat 500 people. And so Dad went to the Snow building and he wanted to be shown around. And so the guy who showed us around was Roger Sorensen. He showed
oh
us around. He took us downstairs to showed us the dressing rooms, and he showed us the whole kit and caboodle. And I remember Dad being super impressed with, especially the acoustics and all that.
right
And then Roger Sorensen ended up being my not only my theater teacher when I was at Rick's, but also my bishop. He was my
okay
bishop my second year there.
wow
Um, and so when I ended up auditioning for Rick's College Academy Players, which was our summer theater program, Bishop Sorensen knew me already because I had had struggles with auditioning out there because so many of the teachers would know the kids from the Rexburg area. And so they had
hmm
a lot easier time getting into the groups and the plays and stuff because they were already well known. Whereas this
sure
farm girl from Ohio, nobody knew me.
sure
So I would audition for a bunch of different things and really get overlooked. And Bishop Sorensen, I went and auditioned, and my roommate Lonnie played kind of pecked on the piano for me, and I sang "Goin' Courtin'" from Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. That was a song I sang, and I was so surprised when I got chosen for that special group because it was basically like there was about 30 of us, and it was probably half boys and half girls. So out of all the drama students, I was one of 15 girls that got chosen. So that was pretty cool. And I think one of the reasons I got chosen was because Bishop Sorensen actually knew me from being my bishop. So that was a real blessing.
right
And then he ended up leaving Rick's and going down to BYU, and he became the chairman of the theater department at BYU, and did that for probably 20 years. He just retired a few years ago. So really, really amazing fella. But the first time I ever got to know him was when he took us around the snow building at Rick's College, and that was because of Dad.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. You know, someday we'll do a Facebook Live. We'll do a show and take you over to the new music building here at BYU. That
nice. So
is
that
right
was
there.
that done? I know they tore down the old one that I had a
Oh,
lot of memories in.
yeah. Well, they got the new one done before they tore the old one down.
Oh, that was smart. Okay.
But yeah, it's an amazing building. I've been in there. I was in there during Education Week. There was a couple sessions that I attended in there, but I haven't been in there for a musical performance. So,
So what are they putting in place of the old arts building?
oh
The
gosh, there's
Harris
something
Fine
going.
Arts Center, the HVAC.
There's something going in there, obviously. In
Scott's
fact,
name
it's
was on the third floor in the HVAC. They had a name of all the people that had graduated, like summa cum laude and stuff. And
right.
Scott's name was on this a great big book that she turned, and um, there was Scott's name because he had graduated with his master's and he'd gotten above a 3.5 grade point average. So
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
they
know if
threw that
it's,
book. I think they threw that book away now. But
yeah, I'm sure,
no, I'm just kidding. Um,
but it was there for a while anyway.
let's see. You
And
know what?
also, when Scott was there for his master's program, he started a trombone choir because they've
Okay.
had one at Central. They didn't have one at BYU. So he told Brother Batchelder, what one of the things I'd like to do while I'm here is start a trombone choir. So he did. And I went to BYU 25 years later, and they still have a trombone choir. So
So what
Scott started that.
what is a trombone choir?
Well, it's basically all trombones and they play music together.
I would think
So,
that'd be a trombone band. How's that a trombone choir?
well, I don't know. That's what they called it, the trombone choir. So,
um,
but they still have it. When I was there was a poster on the wall for a concert from the trombone choir, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Scott started that. That's so cool.
right. So the Harris Fine Arts Center is being rebuilt as the Harris Fine Arts Center. It's a brand new building, so they're going to have that music building for performances, and then they'll have the Harris Fine Arts Center, which I'm sure has, smaller theaters in there too, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the big performances are going to be over at the music building, and then of course they have the new the new BYU Creamery is completed,
Oh, nice.
and the old
So
one got
sort of like
torn
they
down.
have up in the school in Logan has that
And
creamery.
the new one is about 3 times as big as the old one was. The other thing that's got torn down recently is the Smoot administration building
Oh,
is gone, and they're rebuilding a new administration building. So lots of things going on there at BYU. Unfortunately, my company's not getting to do any of this work, but
mm.
those projects
Well,
are
remember that original building that was on campus? Like when I was walking home to my house on 800 North there, I would
the
go right past it.
the Mazer building is still there.
Okay, good.
That's
Because
not
that
that's
was
not
like one of the original buildings on campus, and I just thought it
yeah,
was so cool.
that's not going anywhere. That's
Okay,
staying there.
good.
But some of these other buildings from the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
they're willing to give up on those. But
The
anyway,
science building needed a lot of help when I was there. It was pretty run down. Wasn't great.
right. I don't know.
So it might already be gone.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that building's
Hmm.
gone. So, well, good stuff. But I wanted to talk about that because that was such a pivotal choice that Dad made to bring us out west to show us these schools. And even though I didn't end up coming out here to go to school, I live here today. I live here today because 15 years ago, when life was getting to be a real mess, and I needed a safe place to go to, I didn't turn around and run to Bellevue, Ohio. I came to Provo, Utah.
Right.
There wasn't any job that brought me out here. There wasn't, any special relationship or something like that. Um, that employment opportunity or something like that brought me out here. It was just simply I knew this was a safe place to come, and that and my family would be safe here, and
What
we
a
came
wise
out here.
decision when you think about it, really.
Say again?
What a wise decision that was for your
Yeah,
family.
and it's been amazing. I mean, like we have loved. I loved growing up in Ohio. We enjoyed every place we lived in Ohio. We loved living in Florida. We loved Alabama. Heidi has often said, gosh, what if we had never left Alabama?
Right.
But we also loved our 10 years in Illinois. Like we've enjoyed every place we've lived, and every place has its pluses and minuses. But for us, the pluses always outweighed the minuses. But Provo has been really above and beyond. And we just can't imagine not having made that choice to come out here. So,
Don't you think the thing that kind of ties it all together is like always having a Ward family to go to? It always just makes it feel like home because the church is the same everywhere we go. I mean, they have the same, like we
yeah,
have the same hymnal, they give the same lessons every Sunday. So it just always feels familiar.
yeah,
And, you'll see different faces there, but you just feel at home. So I think when, like, yeah, I know as I've moved around the country and, me and Scott were out west and then I was up in Michigan, but everywhere I went, there was always a Ward family that would kind of like embrace you. And I think that probably helped you guys too as you're moving around the whole country.
oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we certainly felt that when we moved in here. And, for the first time in my life, we could walk to church. In fact, I can walk, I can walk a mile and walk, I can walk a mile in any direction and run into about 20 LDS chapels.
Yep.
And I can walk, a quarter mile and there's BYU and the Provo Temple and the
Oh,
MTC.
I know
So,
you live so close to everything. It's
so,
amazing.
so I am right in the thick of it for sure.
Yep.
But pretty amazing stuff. But that all came about from that trip that the dad decided to take you on, and in the last moment you decided to bring me along. So
Hmm.
it's amazing how little choices can have such huge impacts. But well, we have kept everybody amazingly entertained here tonight. I know this, I'm sure, was one of their favorite episodes. Um, but tomorrow night will be Throwback Thursday. Um, should we jump into the Tammy Sherry story tomorrow night?
If you want, sure.
Yeah, I'll try.
So we'll
I
have
want
to
to
do
put.
this purity thing another time, which is fine.
Oh yeah, I do want to talk about the whole purity culture thing
Hmm.
that we're accused of having, and that is an interesting thing that comes up. And I just want to talk about all those related issues because it does tie back into the same thing that you found when you spent that summer at Cedar Point, and then all of a sudden landed on a day later on BYU campus, and what a huge thing you
Oh,
felt.
felt like I landed on a different planet.
Yeah, yeah, for
It was
sure.
crazy. Yep.
So I would like to talk about all those related issues, but hey, thank you to anyone and everyone. Thank you to anyone who tuned in, and to everyone who catches us on the replay. Your comments, your likes, your complaints are always welcome and appreciated. And we will catch you tomorrow night for Throwback Thursday.
Bye, everybody.